Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, wherever you're listening and watching us from. It's Friday the 4th of February 2022. Mwaka inasonga, the year is running quite fast. Time is moving, time is flying. We're already on the fourth day in the second month this year. Welcome to Farmers Media right here on the Breakfast Show with me, David Kagina. And if you like Kagina, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for coming on board. We have a lot in store for you today. And if you were with us yesterday, and in case you are not with us yesterday, we were looking at the health of a farmer. And today we'll be having a very, very interesting conversation on breaking isolation. Farming can be quite engaging, and so we'll be having that conversation on just how to break isolation. But first of all, let me remind you, you can continue engaging with us through our social media platform, that is Facebook, our Farmers Media, as well as on Instagram, a Farmers with a Z, and also on Twitter, farmers_media, and we'll be sampling your feedback. But I want to know, today I'll be asking quite an interesting question, but I'll be bringing it later on board. And in case you've just woken up, you might be quite interested in what are some of the things that are trending on Twitter, and you might be shocked that some things that are trending quite interesting, just to mention but a few. I'll not be going into the details, but maybe later on Twitter. Trending at number one is Moses Kuria. Interestingly, I believe he's supposed to be having a rally here in Kenya, a Thanksgiving rally in his home county. We also have Major, who is trending at number two. Number three is quite an interesting topic that is trending on its third day. Is asking that can men say no to sex? That's quite interesting. We also have trending in Kenya. We also have Ruiru. I think that is where Moses Kuria is supposed to be having his event. And trending at number 5 is AFCON 2021. Those who are watching football, I don't know what football team you're supporting in these, AFCON. And there's many more. There's much more. We'll be exploring that and much more right here. I'll be giving you an update on traffic even as we move on, and we'll be taking a look at the weather and hear what the weatherman is saying right here on a Farmers Media. Thank you so much for joining us. And just I had mentioned before, today we're going to be having a very, very, very interesting conversation. And even as we had there, let me remind you, are you a coffee, are you a tea farmer, wherever you are right now, it's very important that you take care of your health. It's very crucial. And so we are pushing for the bid to get vaccinated. We're pushing for you to go get vaccinated against COVID-19. Take all the necessary procedures and as prescribed by the Ministry of Health, to take, including masking up. Is it proper cleaning of your hands? Yeah. Social distancing. Ensure you maintain all these things to ensure that you are safe. Because here, remember, I tell you every day, for as long as the farmer is healthy, then the farm is healthy. But if the farmer is at risk, no. The farm is also at risk, and that is not something we want. And you're getting this information courtesy of Producers Direct. And now moving on now to our topic of the day, which is breaking isolation. This is quite an interesting topic. You'll understand, most of you who farm, or rather if you're planning to come in, to venture into farming can be quite an isolated career. It's not something that everyone is into, and again, it requires your full attention most of the time, and sometimes you work in isolation. How so? We're saying most of the people who are engaged in farming, mostly farming, are men, especially in the country in sub-Saharan of Africa. Most of them are men, and sometimes men at work tend to be quite isolated, tend to be a little bit focused. And so, how so? Most of the farms, especially in Kenya, are in the rural areas, which means the generations that are in the rural areas mostly are, these old people. And when you're farming, you're in your farm, it's a private property. That is in most of the cases. And so you find yourself, unless it's for the laborers, and even the laborers themselves, even at work, at the different workstations, unless they're meeting during the breaks, it's a very, 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 very isolated environment. Interestingly, because initially we had lots of people in the, in the rural areas. We had lots of people farming, engaging in farming activities, um, traditionally, that is. But now, as time is moving, things are changing, and you're finding that most people are adopting new ways of making money, new ways of careers, new ways, different passions. People have gone into engineering, people have gone into teaching, people have gone into, other skills like communication. People have gone into, for example, journalists. I'm sitting here not on the farm. People have explored other options: pilots, engineers, technicians, art and music, and, and painting. All those other forms of making money. And farming has been left aside as a form of career. It's Farming as a career has not is not for many, and it's not for the faint-hearted, I must say. And so this is one of the reasons why those engaging in it tend to be quite isolated to some extent. The other reason is most farmers tend to work alone. It means that it becomes very hard for them to, meet other people, interact with other people, socialize with other people, especially with the current climate conditions. You find that most farmers, especially after the onset of COVID-19, most farmers, or a good number of farmers, have been working independently at home, on their farms. You've been told to socially distance yourself. You're being told to avoid crowds. And so during this period, especially, most farmers have found themselves quite isolated. You don't interact with lots of people, maybe a few, one or two laborers on your farm, and that might lead to quite some isolation, I must say. Sometimes also crops fail sometimes. Whatever you're engaging in the form of farming, be it livestock keeping or crops, sometimes it may fail. And as people, we have bagged our personalities and success majorly on how productive we can get. And so once you are not productive, there's that tendency to withdraw yourself from other people, from the crowds. Probably your big farm is what was giving you a name and commanding respect right there, but it's not behaving as it ought to. And so you feel personally attacked, and that way you tend to withdraw yourself. It's a common behavior among most, or rather among some of the farmers around here. And this can be, this can bring about feelings of isolation, and that is isolation in itself. And today we are going to ensure that we break what we are talking about as isolation. Something else is farmers tend to be, seeking productivity most of the time. And you find that some of them are not working with their partners at that moment. So you have a farmer on the farm, and probably a wife is in a different career, or the wife is the farmer and the husband is in a different field altogether, probably not even around. Probably some widows or widowers, some have just separated in their different ways, some are not living where they are farming, and so their spouse is somewhere else, they travel to farm, and so they're not together. So there's a tendency to feel lonely, alone. That's isolation right there we're looking at. And sometimes you find that as a farmer, there's a possibility at times you're not together with your children most of the time. Sometimes you farm away from your home, and so you have to wake up quite early for you to get in the farm on time. You come back quite late, and so you do not get enough time to interact with your children, and right there leads you to isolation, because you find that your interaction with people that matter to you, or your interaction with your children, is greatly affected. And so you find that your intrapersonal skills are, quite at hold. Your interpersonal needs are quite at hold or at bay, and that leads to isolation. That in itself is isolation, because you are not with people. You are alone. The other reality is emotional isolation. Now, this is quite interesting. Now, especially, let me go for the men. You know, not to shoot at you, but for the men, most men have lots of acquaintances. You have lots of acquaintances. You have, especially as a farmer, probably interacting with lots and lots of clients, customers, uh, other farmers, acquaintances, and you end up. Well, the resultant of this is, at the end of the day, you do not have friends, or rather people you can be talking to about your issues, or issues that are eating you up. And so what this does, it leaves you emotionally isolated. You get? You are experiencing things that you can't talk about, because you have very minimal number of people you can be speaking to, which is quite interesting. So the few people you are speaking to about things that really matter, those things that stress you. When these people are not there, probably you have been isolated from your spouse, as we were talking about. Probably you've not married yet, or you are a celibate, or living alone, a widow or a widower, or not yet there, and that is not part of your business. So you find yourself quite alone most of the time. And so you do not have enough friends. You have many acquaintances, yes, because of business and everything, but you have very few friends, people you can be talking to about things that really matter. And so this leaves you, especially, it leaves you at a place where you are alone. Traditionally, men were known to be, the providers, those guys who produce, the people who have all the answers, all the concerns, and the culture has been for them not to seek help. Yeah, that's the reality. That's the sad reality. Most of us have, you might not see that growing up, but at some point you look at yourself, and you find you're the one. People come to you for all the answers. You have people who are looking up to you for all provision. People are looking up to you for direction. People are looking up to for you to produce. You're the provider here. And so once you find yourself in that position, there's a very high chance that you find yourself emotionally caged, kind of emotionally isolated, because you do not have time to feel those emotions. That is not part of who you were taught to be. That is not the face you interact with. And so the challenge with this is that most men struggle alone, and they do not have time to talk. They struggle alone, and they do not have time to talk. Yeah, emotionally distant from these other people, and that is a form of isolation in itself. We'll be getting into more detail about some of the things that you should be doing in order to curb this form of isolation that we're talking about. That whatever your form of isolation, you may feel trapped by your situation. These are some of the things that go hand in hand with isolation. You may feel trapped in a kind of situation, be it a financial crisis, be it basic stress. You just want to talk your things out, and you are not being able to do that. So you might find yourself being isolated, and so you might feel lonely. There's a very high tendency for you to feel stressed, because you can remember, if you were in yesterday, just to loop you in on yesterday's conversation, we were having a conversation on stress management and how to manage this stress, as a farmer. Isolation might lead you to a point of stress or depression per se. And so you may not only feel lonely, but the stress can cause serious effects on your mental health as well as your physical health. Because what stress does, it may cause you to overeat or undereat. That in itself affects your health directly. It might lead to anxiety and things like that, and that might lead to an increase in lifestyle diseases like blood pressure and everything. But blood pressure and imbalance, ulcers, it might lead to such things. Again, it causes you to think too much. That is stress, and so you might experience headache, and your body is affected in many ways if you find yourself in that position, something that you do not want to find your position. And when you are in that condition where you are isolated, feeling lonely, there's a very high risk of becoming detached from other people. And that's not even worse. The worst bit is where you become detached from yourself, because you have for long, isolated yourself, stayed alone on yourself. We've said emotionally, you have been isolated emotionally. You have been isolated from other people. Say your family, say your children, say your interaction is minimal with the society. And again, we are talking about you not having a community around you, that tight community around you where you're comfortable with friends you can talk to, tell them the things that are ailing you. And sometimes this is because you have too many acquaintances. You talk business, talk how your family is doing good even when it is not. Talk about how you're making money even when you're broke. And so you do not have people to have a reality check with in your life. And that leads you to a point of isolation where you are all alone, all by yourself. And that is not very healthy. We will be headed in a short commercial break in a short while. But before that, let me remind you that we have been pushing for the safe use of chemicals. Not just the safe use of chemicals. Dawa Bora Mazao Bora. That's the hashtag. A campaign being run by Markup Kenya and UNIDO. So what they are saying is, if you are using these pesticides, then push for the safe use of these pesticides. By safe, you're not meaning that these pesticides are really safe for your consumption. What you're saying is you need to be equipped properly while using these chemicals to ensure that you use them as they ought to be used. Among the campaigns that we are pushing for is hashtag Soma Label. What does this mean? This means that when you go to purchase your pesticide, you don't just purchase randomly or blindly. You need to, some of the things that you need to put in place very cleanly is check the label to ensure it has a valid expiry date and batch number, in that you can really trace this product specifically. Check the batch number and also check the expiry date. Very crucial, because you do not want to be using, you don't want to be using expired material on your farm. You do not want to be using chemicals that are already expired on your farm, because what is the end product? They will not be effective. 1, 2, that will be a loss of your money. 2, because you've bought something that will not be effective on your farm. 3, besides all that, you might even harm your plants. Imagine spraying your plants with expired, these pesticides, and probably they get, once it expires, the chemical composition of the pesticide changes, and you might even end up harming despite not working, the pesticide might end up harming your plants, and that is not something that you want. So it's very important that you check the label to ensure it has a valid expiry date and batch number. The second thing is ensure the label is clearly visible and intact. Don't buy something whose label is not clearly visible and intact. You might end up with something that is so different from the pesticide you were going to purchase in the first place. So ensure you check the expiry date, and secondly, ensure the label is very clear, legible. You can tell what company is this, you can tell what kind of pesticide is this, you can tell what kind of pests is it going to deal with. Ensure you can see that clearly, and ensure that the label is right on tight, it's intact, so that such that it's not the label of a different chemical on that can. Ensure the label is very intact, and also always ensure that you follow the label instruction on usage. These instructions on usage may entail how you're supposed to handle the chemical. It may also entail how you're supposed to, in case you're supposed to be diluting it, to what extent are you diluting it? And if you're diluting it, what containers should you be using while diluting it? What should you be using while stirring? How should you even dilute it? For how long after diluting should you wait? These instructions are so important because they determine the end product of what you will be spraying on your animal or on your farm. And that is not just it. It also affects, besides how to use it, it also indicates safety, how to safely use that pesticide. That is very important. We are pushing for the safe use of pesticide. And so when we tell you hashtag SOMA label, remember SOMA HEO label. It must be clear, it must be visible, and read those instructions. They might instruct you, on how to use them safely, how to be safe when using these chemicals, and also the proper handling of this pesticide. Probably it's not supposed to be exposed to sunlight, and you're taking it to sunlight. That is destroying the pesticide. And so probably you're supposed to be holding it back, or rather, using it when it's cold, or spraying it. Recommended to be sprayed during the evening or early morning before the sun rises. So it's very important that you get these directions. Hashtag SOMA label. Remember, we are pushing for the safe use of chemicals. Hashtag Dawa Bora Mazao Bora, campaign by Markup Kenya and UNIDO. We will be coming back after the break with more information on, the conversation we were having right now on breaking isolation for you as a farmer, for you watching this and listening this, probably even in a different career, but some of your careers might end up, finding yourself in a position where you are constantly isolated, constantly all by yourself. And we'll be delving, we have identified some of the things that make you susceptible to isolation, be it emotionally, physically, you being present there. So after the break, we'll be coming with more details on how exactly someone can deal with this to avoid isolation. Remember, reach out to us through our SMS platform, that is at A Farmers Media on Facebook, A Farmers with a Z on Instagram, A Farmers _ media on Twitter, as well as Kagnak again on all those social media platforms, and I'll be engaging you. I'll be reading your feedback. Let me know what you think about our discussion today. Let me know what you think about isolation. Have you found yourself at a point where you isolated? Are you isolated? Do you think isolation is a problem? I want you to tell me all that before we delve into that conversation, and I'll be telling you why isolation is a problem in itself before we go to solutions to isolation. And lastly, I'll be giving you a whole list of 10 things you should be looking at as a farmer to ensure that you're not isolated and you are healthy. And so don't go far. Welcome back, welcome back. Remember, you're joining us right here on a Farmers Media Breakfast Show with me, Kagna Kagina, or David Kagina if you like. Thank you so much for joining us. And in case you want to talk with us, talk to us through our SMS line on the number showing on your screen, as well as our social media platforms. That is a Farmers Media on Facebook, a Farmers with a Z on Instagram, a Farmers Media that is, and also on Twitter at a Farmers_media. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're having a very interesting list of conversations, and the first topic we were talking about here is isolation. And before we went for this short commercial break, I told you when we come back we'll be talking about just how can we break this sequence of isolation. We have identified that isolation is actually possible, especially if you're venturing into the field of agriculture. In case if you're venturing into the field of farming, we have agreed that it is you're very susceptible to isolation in its different forms and shapes. But before that, let us go through some of the things that you're expecting to be hearing in the news today. Among the things that you're expecting to be hearing in the news today is that in Kenya, ODM is seeking to amend the nominations law. That is something that you will be expecting to hear in the news today. There's also this American farm that has bought a cell tower farm here in the country, so that will be coming in the news from the newsrooms today. And among the things you'll be hearing also is that the Fly 54 CEO, the Fly 540 CEO, has faced property auction over a 678 million debt. Yes, the CEO of Fly 540 has faced property auction over a debt of 678 million Kenyan shillings, and that will be making it to the news today. And also it's possible, I see that it's possible for Kenyans to now access or book online in order to donate blood, I believe, in a bid to reduce congestions in these donation points and plants. And something else that will be coming up is a very interesting conversation where the health ministry has opposed plans to end KEMSA monopoly. I believe KEMSA is the body that is in charge of medical supply in the country, and so the Ministry of Health has really opposed the ending of KEMSA's monopoly. Those are just among of the few items you will be expecting to hear over the news this morning, rather the rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep us busy on our SMS lines. I will be getting to sample some of your feedback before the end of these. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have agreed, we have come to a consensus that is it's indeed very possible for you to find yourself at a position where you are isolated, especially if you're a farmer and especially if you are on a farm. And among the things that we've mentioned is, just to recap, a quick rejoinder. Farming, you find yourself isolated because most of the time you're working alone. That is one in itself. Secondly, you find that a greater majority of people who are practicing farming, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, are men, and men have developed a culture, of not speaking out their problems, probably because society looks up at them. There are high expectations on men. Matters what they should do. They're the providers. They should be providing solutions. They should be having answers to almost everything, and that leads them to kind of detachment, because they can't speak about their issues. And so we've talked also about emotional isolation, and that is where you can find yourself, because most farmers, you find that you have lots and lots of acquaintances, and so you have very few friends who you can sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation. Talk to them about things that are directly ailing you or indirectly ailing you. Talk about the things generally, about your well-being, and so that leaves you emotionally isolated, because people talk to you, yes, but you can't talk back to them, and that is trouble in itself. We always say, in psychology, and in matters mental health, we say the more you speak about these things, the more you are helped. We say a problem that has been spoken about is half solved, half shared, half solved. And so it's very important that you speak up about your issues and problems that are facing you, not just as a farmer, but everyone who's listening, or rather everyone who's tuned in this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be getting a little bit of updates on the traffic later on, and what the weatherman has to say in this country. I know that is a very important news for the farmer. In Kitengela, I see it's a little bit dry. I was having a conversation with someone on my way here, and they said, mentioned something that drought, seems like drought is on its way. But we'll be taking a look at what the weatherman has to say. So we are looking right now. We're looking at what can we do in order to ensure that we break this isolation. What can we do in order to break this isolation? This is quite interesting. So the first thing, the secret to breaking isolation, because isolation in itself is withdrawal, whether intentionally or by accident, from where people are, from society, from interaction with other people, interpersonal interactions. And among the things that you can do, number one, to break that directly, is go where people are, and that is join a group. You might be saying, oh, you can work on your own, you do not exactly need people. But there are many groups you could join around the country. This ranges from agricultural groups, discussion groups, church groups, men's groups, walking groups. You could be having, for example, your tall people groups, if there are such a group. But there are plenty. There's a variety of groups you can join. You can join a club. There are many groups that you can join, and the importance of these groups is that they help you to meet other people. Basically, that isolation is where you find yourself in a position where you cannot talk to people. Probably you are too busy, you cannot engage one-on-one with people. And so what isolation does is it denies you the opportunity to interact with people. And so when you join a group, that is a solution in itself. That is a solution in itself, because you are going where people are. And if you find yourself in a position where you have lots of acquaintances and less of friends, join a group puts you in a position where you can now meet other people, and from there probably you can develop more friendships. Another thing with isolation and stress, we said that you need to speak up. You need to speak up, and in these groups you'll find yourself speaking up, whether you like it or you don't, but mostly you'll find yourself speaking out. You can speak out about farming in a farmers group, such that those people don't see you as a weak person. In case you're protecting you need your ego intact. So you go there, find other farmers who are ranting about how badly their farms are doing, and right there you can go and talk about yours as well. And the beauty about this is, by engaging with other people who are going through the same problems as you, there's a very high chance you people will talk and come up with a solution. Very likely. Because you go to a farmers group, realize you guys are facing trouble with water, especially during this season, and you realize so it's not you alone who's facing trouble with water. It's everyone on that farm. For example, if your water is piped and you don't have a borehole exactly, if it's piped water, then you could realize, probably there's a leakage at some point, and there's a very high chance now you guys can come together with concerted efforts and fix that. See, bringing a solution. For example, if it is a church group, and you're feeling emotionally or distant spiritually, not just a church group, a religious group, could be a church, could be a mosque, could be a temple, could be a shrine, wherever you go, your place of worship, but a religious group. And this is very important. If it's a church group, go sit down with these people, talk to them about how you feel distant, or rather just go there. This is the most appropriate word to use: fellowship with these people. Talk out these things, engage, talk. And once you're doing that, you are inside people, and that's a solution in itself. So make sure you're interacting with these people by joining those groups. Also, other possible groups are chamas. Chamas are very popular among ladies, and the beauty about ladies is that they have many avenues of of relieving stress. These people can go to a salon, they are going to have their hair made, and they relax. These people talk out. These people let go of their stress. They talk about their issues, other people's issues, and at the long run, they address most of their stresses this way because they are talking. And we said a problem half shared is half solved, and that is an avenue for them. Sometimes they have chamas where they go. Yes, these chamas not only serve the purpose of coming together and making money or starting projects together. Those projects, or rather how they're seeking money, began by them sitting together and agreeing and talking out their issues and finding out that many people in that group have financial issues. And what do we do? So let us contribute, let us start saving on a weekly basis. And so those meetings help a lot. So the lot that has been left out in this scenario are the men. You're a man out there, you're going through these challenges, please join even a men's group. What this assists you with is you sit down with a man, you start discussing. You realize, oh wow, so our children have been a little bit stressful. So what do we do to them? So this could be a solution. That becomes engaging, and that becomes very interactive for you people, and that's very healthy for you as a person. At a men's group, you go and discover that, oh wow, so I have been having problems with my spouse. What's up? So you'll find someone who probably was there before you and experiencing the same trouble, or is or you are about to join the bandwagon in matters matrimony, and so you have a prospect probably, and right there a prospect where in isolation that would be eating you up and giving you stress because you're thinking about them and what to go around them. Probably you're planning for something, but once you're in a men's group, it becomes very essential because there you get to talk about these things. You find some people, especially sometimes you might find, yes, they are peers, sometimes you might find there's a variety. There are people younger than you, people you can mentor and talk to. There are also people older than you, people who can talk to you, people who can address some of the issues you are undergoing right now because they have experienced them in your life. And sometimes it might just be people like you, people who are having the same stress you are undergoing through at that particular moment as a man. And what is important because of that for joining those groups is because you will get to interact with them, you will get to talk with them, you will get to know how they're going through, you will get to open up, utafungua roho without fearing, right? So it is very important that you join even the men's group. The other group could be an activity based group. Probably you love riding a certain type of cars. These groups are very essential. Probably you'll find you love or prefer riding a certain type of pickup, and you guys can decide, as we who drive this certain kind of pickup, let us form a group. Let us be meeting, let us be talking about spare parts of these cars, and eventually that is a group in itself, and it's an avenue of you meeting people, of you interacting with other people. And that's very important because probably there you might be discussing and discover, oh, we have been buying, you as a farmer, you might also increase your chances of improving your farm, because right there you might also be engaging with people and they tell you, if you're using this brand of pickup, then it's quite messy, it's not good on this kind of farms. Probably it's good with cargo, it's not good for traveling long distances, and that is probably not the car you want transporting your goods over long distances if you're taking them to the market. And so this form of engagement in such a group will be very, very, very crucial and is very important, right? So we have agreed, kindly find a group and join the group, be it a men's group, religious group, activity based. It could be a cycling group, as simple as a cycling group. You guys cycle together, or a workout group. You guys wake up in the morning, run together, or an estate, people who or you grow maize growers association. Find a group where you can find people and talk about your issues. It's very, very important. That's one way of dealing with isolation. The second way of dealing with isolation is take it over. Talk it over. Join these groups, talk, and talk it over. You could talk it to your spouse, talk it to you through, talk it through your children, talk it over through other people. Because as we mentioned, men have been taught not to talk, and so unfortunately, these rules have made men find themselves in an isolation trap. Because you don't talk, you are taught not to talk, or rather the situations around you or the community around you has been curated to prevent you from talking and speaking. So talk it up. It will be very important, because you will feel very relieved after talking something with someone. As you daku, see you daku. It's not about propaganda and everything, but when you sit down with someone and talk with them your issues, it's very relieving, because you've left it off your chest. And so hili we say umefungua roho, opened your heart. And those heart-to-heart conversations are really important. And if you can talk to someone in person, you want to talk to but if you can talk to someone, I believe there are very many organizations and very many avenues where you can talk with people in anonymity. And that's interesting. You can also decide to talk to a counselor. Yes, a counselor. You can also decide to talk to a counselor. That is important, because there you may also find a therapist. You might find them. You might find solace in you talking to them professionally, and they can give you professional help and guidance on your issues. Right? So talk out these issues. And the last thing that you need to come to terms with is that it's okay not to know, and it's okay not to do everything. It's okay not to know everything, and it's okay not to do everything. So don't isolate yourself. Imagine it's okay. You don't have to. Yes, it's okay. You might be an experienced farmer of 15 years, but it's okay for you not to know some things. It's really okay. You might be joining in farming right now, and you're totally green. It's okay not to know everything. And also, it's okay not to do everything by yourself. You don't have to do everything by yourself. You can employ someone. You can bring someone on board. You can bring in a professional who can do that. It's really okay, because it's you could really need help yourself and so ask for advice. Ask for advice where you need help. Because when you isolate yourself, you do not assist yourself. So it's very important that you let someone else probably be in charge of what you're doing, probably engage in some of these things. So it's very important that you let someone in, engage other people. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to do everything by yourself. Get yourself assisted, and that will be very essential in ensuring that you are getting the help that you need. And that's it. Means of avoiding isolation, it's very important. Very important. Very important. And now, just to remind you, are you vaccinated? Are you vaccinated as a farmer? Have you gone for your vaccine? Or rather, are you following the correct procedure for, preventing COVID-19 from getting to you? Because COVID is there, COVID is real, people are getting infected, and we need you healthy, because the healthier the farmer, the healthier the farm. And that is crucial. Right here on the Breakfast Show, we ensure that we take care of you, the welfare of you as a farmer, be it financially, be it from health, but most importantly, we ensure that your state of mind is right. Right? Yes. Your pockets are right as well. And your health is check. And that's why we also talking about, even as we talk about vaccination with producers direct, we're also pushing for the safe use of these chemicals, and most especially pesticides that you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis on your farm. Sometimes, fall armyworm has come to the maize. It's very important that you handle those pesticides properly, even as you deal with those insects, to ensure that chemical does not harm the insect and harm you as well. You are not an insect, you are not a pest, and so at no point should you be getting into unhealthy interactions with these pesticides. And that's why we are talking about safe storage of pesticides. So when you're talking about the storage of these pesticides, we talked about the SOMA label when purchasing, ensuring that they have the label on them, and you reading the instructions on those labels properly. Yeah, when the label is intact. After you've purchased, after you've checked the expiry date and everything, you have to store these products properly. And how do you so? Keep these pesticides in the original labeled containers. Ulisoma label, right? Keep it right there, because once you change containers or switch containers, you might forget what chemical went where, what pesticide went where, and that is catastrophic for you as a farmer. Because if you use the wrong, you want to spray the pesticide, and you interchange the pesticide in a can of herbicides, and so you find yourself spraying herbicides on your farm, and that is not healthy. So safe use of pesticide is ensure that you leave them in the original containers at the point of storage, such that the next person who is coming to use them will be able to SOMA label, check the expiry date, and also, most importantly, follow instructions on that can. Right? Yes, very important, very important. We also have children in our premises. We have families, we are people. And so in case your farm is close home and your place you're storing these chemicals, there are children around, keep everything, all these chemicals, out of reach of children. You might prefer locking those cabinets where you're storing this pesticide. You might consider, building higher shelves where the children cannot get to. That is essential. That is very essential in ensuring that you're keeping these chemicals very safe. Also, ensure that you keep these pesticide containers tightly sealed, for two reasons. One, such that they do not spill, and second, because if they spill, you go for a loss. If they spill, you come into contact with them and they harm your health. If they spill, it's not good. That is not what we want. So ensure that you keep these containers containing these pesticides tightly closed. Something else that you want to look at is storing these chemicals away from direct sunshine, because what sunshine does, it might alter with the original composition of these chemicals, right? Yeah, sunlight may alter with the original composition of these chemicals, and that might strongly or greatly affect your produce later after spraying. And so ensure that you keep away from direct sunlight. Something else, ensure that the room you're storing these chemicals in is properly ventilated, such that we have enough airflow coming inside the room, going outside the room, such that in case you're walking into that room, we don't want you consuming unhealthy volumes of pesticides, right? Thank you so much. And remember, once you're handling these chemicals, we have the correct way of handling them, and we will be mentioning on that before the end of this show, even as we talk on how to break isolation. And we have addressed isolation. After the break, we are coming back with one very interesting topic, something that people have been avoiding, something that people don't want to talk about. You are a farmer. You need to see a doctor. When is the right time to see a doctor? You have a health issue. When is the right time to see a doctor? Next week? Right now? Immediately? Yet you have other things that you should be doing. We'll be having that conversation right after this break. So remember, keep engaging with us through our social media platforms at A Farmers Media on Facebook, A Farmers with a Z on Instagram, as well as A Farmers_media on Twitter. Also at Kagna Kagina, you can DM, ask all the questions that you have, engage with us, and I'll be sampling some of those feedbacks right after this commercial break. So don't go far.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the taproot portion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there is at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
back. In case you're joining us right now for the second hour right here on the Breakfast Show, thank you and welcome on board. My name is David Kagina, and thank you for talking to us through our social media platforms right here at a Farmers Media Facebook, a Farmers Media with a Z on Instagram, as well as a Farmers_Media. And I'm sampling just some of your feedback right here. Someone right here, James Kerago, says that indeed isolation is possible in farming. I once stayed for 6 months without going home or seeing anyone because I was on my farm in the rural areas. I realized it was stress. Okay, Kerago, interesting. I'm trying to read some of yours here, but seems they are gone. We'll be getting back to them even as we move on with the program. Thank you and welcome on board. In the previous segment, we were having a very interesting conversation on isolation, and we talked about how to break isolation. We identified, yes, a farmer is isolated, and very susceptible to isolation, be it emotional isolation or physical isolation. And so we also have gone through some things to how to break isolation. We've talked about joining a group. We've talked about talking these things out with in these groups of friends and families. We've also addressed the issue of you putting yourself in a position where you understand that you cannot do everything, and you don't have to do everything by yourself, and also that you do not have to know everything at the same time. And that was a very interesting and insightful conversation. And right now we're going to be just touching base on a very interesting conversation that we'll be handling next week in depth together in the company of a doctor. Now we'll be handling it next week in the company of a doctor, where we'll be getting to ask some of those questions, because what led me to this conversation is I saw a comment by one of you people who was saying that they are having extreme back problems that have been disturbing them for quite some time. And my question was, my reply to the question was, have you seen a doctor? And they said, no, why should I? And I thought this topic would be very interesting conversation. And so even as we kickstart on this conversation, we'll be going into the details of it. We'll be delving into it properly next week. But let's just touch base. Let me start with this statement. Don't wait until it's too late to see a doctor. Remember, don't wait until it's too late for you to see a doctor, because a doctor will help you diagnose your problem early enough and ensure that you're healthy, right? Because a healthy farmer, a healthier farm. If your farm is not healthy, if you're not healthy, there's a very high chance that your farm will suffer as well. And so among the people who have been proved not to be very open to seeing doctors are men. In this case, I do not know, the farmer who is a man, of course they have the majority, and they're the one who are having some trouble here, because they think in some communities, traditional communities, those who are still conservative tend to feel that seeing a doctor is a sign of weakness, and that it's only sick people and weak people who can get sick, and so going to see a doctor is a sign of weakness. First of all, to do away with that myth and misconception, seeing a doctor is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a strength. Let me ask you a question. Someone who sees a problem and is ready to address it, and someone who sees a problem and refuses to address it, laying low, who is the weaker one here? Okay, not the weaker one, but who is more solution oriented here? Who is the lesser human here? They are all humans, but who is working? Who needs more here? I think it's the person who knows that they have a problem and refuses to address it. When you go to a doctor, that is a step of courage in itself, because you do not go there because you're weak. You're strong. You are a farmer already. And you are strong because you have realized you are not operating in your basic or usual strong form, and that is where you go to see a medical doctor or a medical practitioner. And so and some of the other reasons that make people become a little bit hesitant when it comes to, going to see a doctor involves the costs that you will incur when you go to see a doctor. This is one very common reason why most people do not want to go to see a doctor. And that's why we say, your life cannot be, we cannot have a price tag on your life. We cannot. Some of your organs at times, if they fail, we put a price tag on them, but your life cannot have a price tag on it. And so in as much as these things are expensive, right? These things, sometimes treatment can be costly depending on what you're going through, but the earlier you go to seek this treatment, the cost might be lower than if you delay. So you might actually consider going earlier to see the doctor. And the costs, in the case of costs, we'll be delving more on these matters, costs on health platforms and coverages and plans that you can get into. But we have basic necessities like the NHIF, where you can be paying your monthly installments and once in a while going for checkups, and they will be covering that. Very essential. You can take a health insurance plan to take care of that. Or rather, you can also save and go and see the doctor. Yeah? Let the cost not stop you from saving your own life, because once you're gone, your productivity is not there. Right? Yeah, pesa iko hapa itumike. Don't worry. And especially kama inatumika to take care of your health, it better do not fear to explore to take care of your health, to spend for the sake of your health. The second thing why most farmers or most people will not go to the hospital or will not want to see a doctor or will not want to seek treatment is because they have to take time off their work. And they feel that is a waste of time. I should be doing this, then why should I go see a doctor? In masaa kukamua ng'ombe, or this is time to milk. And you feel, the time you are going to see, you spend in a hospital bench, or rather queuing, or rather, waiting for laboratory results. You tend to feel that is a waste of time. You should be doing something else. Let me remind you this. Yesterday we were talking about stress, and healthy habits. And we talked about planning, and pacing. You as a farmer, you need time off. Not you just as a farmer. Anyone else watching this needs time off. I included. Everyone needs time off. It cannot be work 24/7. You need time off. And that's why during the time off, you can decide to rest. You can decide to engage in other activities like your hobbies. And most importantly, you can utilize this time to seek medical help during your time off. So plan appropriately. You can ensure that you find some time off work and seek medical help. The other reason why most people do not want to see a doctor is you do not want bad news. You prefer wacha nikae na kitu ambayo sijui, nikijua itaniuma. Yeah? And so you fear that you might go for that cancer test and be told that you actually have cancer. And that's the fear of most of the people. That's why they do not want to go for this test. You fear that you will go for that HIV test and it turns out positive, so you do not want to hear anything about it. You feel some pain on your back and you want to go there. You don't want to go to see a doctor because there's a chance. You fear that you might be told, your back has issues, so don't go to the farm again. Sit down or rather sleep the whole day, and you feel that no, you do not want such kind of news, and that is bad news, and that is what most people are avoiding. You do not want to receive bad news. The other reason why most people do not want to don't want to go to hospital is you still want to to be in charge. You want to take control. You want to be the one who is calling shots. You do not want a doctor to be telling you 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to be the one who is in control, not just of your body, but also of your farm at all times. Delegation is not your thing. You want to be on control. Previously, when we were talking about, the whole issue of isolation, we mentioned that it's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to do everything by yourself. And so sometimes, yes, you're sick, you have gone to taken home remedies on your farm, herbal remedies on your farm, and they're not working, it's okay not to be in control all the time, right? Yeah, please seek medical attention. Seek medical attention. Very important. You might want to be in charge all the time, but it doesn't have it's not productive every time that you're in charge. Yeah, so let's take care of ourselves. The other thing that is preventing most farmers from seeking medical help is because some of these appointments might actually take longer hours. So you do not want to be on the bench waiting, for the laboratory results. For example, COVID-19 takes around 6 hours for some types of tests. And that is not what you want on your end. You feel that is wastage of time, too much time wasted. Or rather, patience is gone. You cannot just sit in one position and wait for all this treatment. Or rather, you're given medicine, and the medicine you're supposed to consume it, to take it in for around a month or two, or rather several weeks or several days, and you feel that is time wasting. That is one of the reasons why people really, in most scenarios, avoid, by all means, going to hospitals. I don't know why you avoid to go to hospitals. You can also talk to me through our SMS line as indicated on your screen, passing right there, right here under on your screen. SMS, call. You can call if you want to. You can also send in your feedback on these social media platforms. A Farmers Media on Facebook, A Farmers Media on Instagram with a Z, and also A Farmers _ Media on Twitter. Let me know what are some of the reasons why you don't go to see a doctor. And just to move on with this list, there's some people don't go to see a doctor not because they fear, not because they want to be in control, not because they fear the costs involved, not because they don't want to take the time off, but because they feel that they will not get enough time with the doctor. They feel like they will not get enough time with the doctor. They feel like the sessions might get a little bit too fast or too pacey for them, and they are not in for that, right? There's that category of people. So we've talked, most of these victims are men, because unlike women, men think that health services are there for emergencies. You feel, pana, no, unless it's an emergency, why should I be going to the hospital? You're saying that, yet every once in a while, you get from your home, walk inside your farm, and start walking around. And most of the time, this is what happens. Let's put it in practice. Most of the time, this is what happens. You go patrolling your farm, right? Your farm is not sick. There is no emergency. There are no floods. There are no tornadoes on your farm. But you go patrolling them, looking for what's doing okay, what's not doing okay, where is fertilizer needed, which animal looks sickly, yeah? And sometimes you follow that gut feeling to pick that animal, and you discover it's sick, and you call vet early enough before it's too late for the animal. And if you think your crops and plants need that, and even your livestock need that, what makes you think you do not need those frequent checkups? Just that the people who are doing it are more professionals. It's very important that it's not left for emergencies and surgeries, or sick people. It's very important that you go see a doctor every once in a while. These checkups are very important. Yeah? Yeah. Don't wait to be really sick, because when you are really sick, that means it might be a little bit late. Yeah? Usingoje ulemewe kwenda shamba. That's when now you want to rush to the hospital, right? Ensure that you have enough time before that in order for you to go to the hospital, because such delays might make the problem get serious. Because for most of the diseases, once detected early, they are very treatable. For example, cancer is very treatable and can be controlled if found early. Things like, your kidney, if your kidney is having issues, if you found early, you can have your dialysis early enough, treatment, and you recover. If you're having an issue with your liver, it can, if found early, that can be found and treated. Your lungs, you don't have to have your lungs collapse, but if you feel something ish about them and you go to the hospital and you're taken good care of, you won't have to incur the cost of a collapsed lung. So it becomes very easy for you if you do that. So it's important that you go seek medical help before it's too late. You don't have to be, at that point where you can no longer walk, for you to seek medical help. Very important. And so seek medical help wherever you can, whenever you can. Very important. And there are a few things here when you're preparing for that visit. There are a few things here when you're preparing for that visit. Go early, as we're mentioning. Don't wait until it's too late. Go early. So what you can do, book an appointment early enough. If you feel like, some of the reasons we indicated right there were things that make people not go to the hospital. If you feel like you'd consume too much time there in the queues waiting, try book an appointment. That will save your time right there, so that you'll go straight, tell the doctor, find a slot with the doctor, and they'll tell you come between 4 and 4 and 5, or they'll tell you come between 12 and 1, and so you can plan appropriately on your farm, leave activities, and make time for yourself during that time that you've booked with the doctor. And so when you go, you'll find the doctor will be expecting you, and that becomes so much time saving. And that is why you should go see a doctor. Call them early enough, book an appointment, and when you're not very sick, so go very early. Immediately you see a symptom that seems to be off, go see your doctor very early. And being this proactive can really protect you from incurring more charges, or rather going to seek this help when it's quite late, when the time is much gone. And so something that you might also consider is not self-diagnose, but observe yourself earlier. When you're going for this treatment, observe yourself. Find time, observe yourself. Look at what are these key problems that you're having on your body. What are these key symptoms? Probably you've been experiencing constant headaches or migraines that have been quite strong. List that out. You feel sharp pains in your body, or rather anywhere. List the problems that you've been experiencing. This helps you. When you go to the doctor, there's a very high chance you'll forget some of these symptoms, or you might find that you're in a position where you can't tell all these things. So it's important that list them way before you go. If you feel you're having issues with your head, note that down somewhere. If it's possible, for those who have it's possible for you to take your blood pressure at home and get that. It's also important to be checking at that your sugar levels. It's important. Note those things down. Your BMI, your height, your weight. And if you don't, at the hospital they have that. But it's important that you check your medical history. Have those things on your fingertips. Those are the things that save your time when you go to the doctor, because they ask you what are your symptoms. You can list them very fast because you had listed them before. So it becomes very easier for you to tell the doctor, this is what I was suffering from. This is what I am facing as a farmer. This is what I was incurring before I came here. And so it becomes very easy. Once you know the symptoms, once you can't forget them, it becomes very easy even for the doctor, for them to diagnose what diagnose what might be ailing you at that particular point in time. Take care of yourself. And remember, even as we take care of ourselves as farmers, we are talking about the safe use of pesticides, safe use of chemicals. We've talked about how to properly store this medicine, or rather these drugs, and the use of these pesticides. And something that we mentioned is soma label, hashtag soma label, because we're saying hashtag mazao bora, dawa bora, mazao bora, which is very important. We've talked about purchase soma label, proper storage, put it away from children, in the original containers, properly sealed and tight, in well ventilated rooms, away from direct sunlight, to avoid the sunlight from affecting their composition. And something else is you might consider keeping the pesticides locked away, and at a place where only relevant people can access them. Those people with clearance to do that, or authorized personnel can do that. And also label the storage area or storage boxes for pesticides with visible warning signs. Andika hapa pesticides, such that people who are coming to handle that, or even yourself when you're coming back to handle that next time, you handle it in proper gear, so that you don't just come there with your naked arms, hold these chemicals directly, and then start suffering the repercussions later when you're shy to go to the doctor, right? Yeah. So ensure that you label these places very visible, with visible signs indicating clearly that these warning signs, these are pesticides, right? The other thing that you might consider doing is ensure signage of authorized personnel only, and signage like "do not drink" inside those rooms where you're storing those pesticides, because if you should not be eating or feeding in such rooms, there's a very high chance that you might contaminate your food, and that eventually gets to you as a farmer, and we do not want you sick. In as much as we are telling you when to see a doctor, we do not want you sick from such scenarios of ignorance. So don't label those places properly. Indicate that only authorized personnel can get there. The authorized personnel should know that they should not drink or eat in these rooms for their own safety, for their own sake, just to ensure that they're not sick. Probably if they don't need to smoke in there, right, do not smoke. So we do not want explosives right there. We do not want the smoke. Also, these people breathing in that unhealthy kind of gas, especially if the room is not well ventilated. And also make sure that the shelves that you're storing your drugs on are quite organized properly, such that in case there's a spillage, nothing else will be damaged, right? So ensure that they are properly organized to ensure that they are not in case they spill, they do not contaminate the rest. And now, most importantly in this case now, dear farmer, is place a washing station right close to the storage facility. What the washing station does is, once you are done dealing with the chemicals, remember, you're supposed to clean up properly with soap and water. And that can be done as soon as possible. So ensure there's a washing point, there's a washing storage around that point, just right close to the storage facility, such that once you deal with the chemicals, once you get in touch with the chemicals, it becomes very easy for you to wash your hands and clean up using soap and water. And that applies to everyone who will be handling the chemicals, from the one who is spraying to the one who is storing them. And if that is one person, then the better, because they can now clean up to ensure that they do not have traces of that left on them even as they move on to the next activities. Because you can imagine, if you just from spraying the pesticides, and then with that you go contaminate the food that is being consumed by your livestock, then you see the life of your livestock is at risk in this case, or even your life is at risk, because eventually it is the consumer who will end up having consuming milk of a cow that ate food with pesticides. So you can imagine just how dangerous that can be for the other people, because we say health is your responsibility, it's my responsibility. Good food, healthy food is both our responsibility. I as the consumer, I as the farmer, and you as the consumer, and you as the farmer. We're headed for a short commercial break, and when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking about the last of the few things about what you should be preparing before you go to the doctor, and how to deal with the whole doctor visit. And also remember, I had promised you to give you a summary of a list of 10 things to do to ensure that you maintain your health as a farmer. Remember, here at A Farmers Media is all about you and you, because you come, connect, learn, and grow. Don't stay far.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the top proportion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there's at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
Welcome back. In case you're joining us right now, we're in the last round right here on A Farmers Media on the Breakfast Show with me, David Kagina. If you like Kagna Kagina, thank you so much for joining us. And before we continue with our discussion that we were having earlier on, let me give you an African proverb. This African proverb says this way: that however beautiful a fig tree may be, it may contain a worm. However beautiful a fig tree may be, it may contain a worm. And now the interesting thing about this proverb is that it coincides with our topic today when we're talking about when should you see a doctor and when to see a doctor. And so we were saying however healthy you look, you might be having that worm, right? See what we did there. And so back to a conversation. We were having that interesting conversation, and we said among the things that you should be preparing for when you're going to see a doctor, we talked about you booking an appointment. That is in case you're worried about the timing and everything, so you booking an appointment with a doctor. Secondly, we talked about you listing your symptoms. Very important for you to list your symptoms. And it's very important now to build on to that point. It's very important that you understand your family history. You know, the illnesses they have undergone, if there are diseases that they are susceptible to, you know, if there are chronic conditions, and any details or medication or vitamins that you would love, you would love to get during your visit to the doctor. And most doctors will be pleased to have a patient who takes such proactive approach to their healthcare. And there's a very high chance now they will give you proper attention because what? You have been intentional about your health. Who doesn't want to work with effective people? Who doesn't? I want to. And so even these doctors would want to work with someone who really understands themselves in terms of, you know, what symptoms they've been feeling, family illnesses that they are susceptible to, you know, the diseases that you've been having in your family. Could be chronic conditions, say cancer, say diabetes, say anything else that is, recurrent over and genetically passed on. So it's very important that you identify some of these things and observe them before going to visit a doctor. That's very crucial. Another very, 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 very essential bit is this now. You have prepared, you have booked an appointment. Yes, you have gone and you have taken all your symptoms into account. And now you've gone to the doctor. When you get to the doctor, be very honest. Be very honest. There's a Swahili proverb that says, Mficha uchi hazai, meaning a woman or a lady, a person who does not want to get naked cannot give birth. In this essence, if you hide the truth from your doctor, it will be very difficult to help you because the doctor cannot place a thing as to what is ailing you. It becomes very difficult for the doctor to diagnose your problem if you cannot get honest with them. Be honest, including your bad habits. Be very honest, including your addictions. Do you consume a lot of alcohol? Yeah, be very honest with your doctor about it. Are you a smoker? How much do you smoke? Be honest about it, because you could find probably your liver has an issue. It could be cirrhosis, and you're hiding that thing from them. So it will be very hard for the doctor to diagnose you correctly. And you know where this goes to? These might come back to you. This might bite back to you because in forms of tests, because the doctor might go ahead and do more tests. Or the doctor could wrongly diagnose you because you gave half-baked information. And what this ends up with is costing you more and causing more trouble because they might give you medication that have side effects that harm you because simply you were not honest with them. So it's very important that you give the most truthful information to your doctor. You know, matters how severe your symptoms are, your habits, so that they make a very accurate diagnosis and so that you can receive proper treatment. Very important. These are non-negotiables. Be honest with your doctor. Remember, mficha uchi hazai. The other point that you need to take note of is that doctors have seen and heard everything. Yeah? You're talking about your knees. You're hiding your knees. Doctors have seen enough knees to last them a lifetime. They have seen them. Your trouble, you think your trouble is so private. They have seen them. Yeah? STDs, they have experienced them. They have treated tons of people, thousands of people, and yours is not the first one. So have confidence in these people. Yeah? Believe in them. So don't tell them the truth as much as you can, and there's nothing you can say and you can show the doctor that they haven't heard or seen before in the medical field. So they will not judge you, and they're well used to dealing with parts of the human body, some parts that you're even shy of. They're used to these parts. They've treated hundreds and thousands before. So don't feel shy well with these doctors. Yes, as much as it might be a very natural instinct being shy, but ensure that you have confidence in these people. There's nothing that you take into them that they've not probably encountered, because these diseases are recurrent unless it's a new disease like COVID-19, and even then COVID was able to be traced because of someone who went to the hospital. So it's very important that you remember doctors have seen most of these things. There's rarely that there's something new that they have not dealt with. So it's very important that you become cautious even, and honest and very transparent even as you go to see a doctor. Remember, now this conversation has been very interesting. When we ask you, or rather when we've had the discussion of when is the right time to see a doctor, and what did we say? However good an olive or a fig may be looking, it may contain a worm. So you never know. It's very good and awesome to go see a doctor as early as possible. We said as early as possible in the process, so that these things or that diseases or illnesses or chronic conditions can be tamed as early as possible. The earlier, the better. Secondly, we said research yourself, right? Research properly about what you are undergoing with, so that it can become very easy for you, such that when you're going to see a doctor, you will be able to see a doctor. And that is very crucial for you. And remember, we are pushing for an initiative, ladies and gentlemen, when you will have the opportunity to go get vaccinated. Remember, go get vaccinated. Keep yourself healthy. That is part of it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I had earlier on promised you a good list of 10 things to do to know your health, to ensure that you maintain a very healthy lifestyle. To ensure that you have a very healthy life. And right now we are taking a short commercial break. We'll be back in a while. Just give me a moment. We'll be back in a while, so don't go far. We'll be back briefly.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the top proportion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there's at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, I had promised you a very interesting list of 10 things now to ensure that you keep 10 things to ensure you look at in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle as a farm, even as you start your day, even as you start rolling off your day. Number one, we said prioritize, plan, and pace yourself. That was what we mentioned when starting off. We have also said that take control of your stress. That is very important to keep you very properly. And we've said eat properly, keep healthy. Very crucial. We've also said that do your best, find time for yourself. You need to take care of yourself. We've also said if you don't smoke, if you smoke, you can try reduce that, to keep you safe. If you drink, you can try to do that moderately to ensure that you have a very healthy lifestyle. And number 6, take care of your back when lifting things, because we need you as a farmer. Even as you farm, we need you healthy. The healthier you are, the healthier your farm looks like. Also, remember, keep close tabs on your blood pressure and cholesterol level, such that in case you are susceptible to chronic diseases, you'll be a very healthy farmer at that point. Also, to reduce you can also reduce your cancer health risk. Now you can do that by eating healthily, being physically active, and also maintaining a very healthy weight. And also, now looking at number 9 on my list of 10 things to take care of is beat isolation by joining groups and talking to people, opening up and discussing with people, be it peers and everyone else, seeing a doctor when you ought to, psychologist when you ought to ensure that you have an all-round health intact. You also need to visit your doctor regularly and never delay getting help in case you need one. You deal with, you engage with a number of activities. You farm most of the time, so you might find yourself bending sometimes for longer hours. Your back might have issues. Ensure you see a doctor early enough. You might lift heavy objects and you feel as if there was a crackle on one of your joints. Ensure you see a doctor in good time to ensure that you as a farmer remain as healthy as you can be. Remember, the healthier the farmer is, the healthier you are, the better the farm becomes, because it's your welfare we are interested in, and we're pushing for the safe use of chemicals. Remember, we have talked about these things. There's a campaign by Markup Kenya and UNIDO that is pushing for dawa bora mazao bora, such that ensuring you use the right products, use them properly, such that you will have good results, because we say healthy food is your responsibility as a farmer, as a consumer. It's also my responsibility as a farmer, as a consumer, and so everyone has a role to play in ensuring that we have safe food out here. And among those things we've talked about handling of chemicals, we've talked about storage of chemicals, and ladies and gentlemen, I will always remind you, when it comes to disposal of the containers that have been used in storing these chemicals, remember, do not reuse these containers that have been used with pesticides. Do not reuse them at any cost, and by all costs ensure that no one else reuses them. How do you do so? Ensure that when you're using these chemicals in the very, very, very fast phases, ensure that you triple rinse these containers. This is to ensure that you minimize the traces of the pesticides inside these containers as much as possible. Secondly, perforate these containers such that no one else can reuse them. And also ensure that after perforating them, you flatten them such that people will not get ideas of repurposing them. So perforate, triple rinse them, perforate them, and flatten them so that no one else can reuse them, and that way you will be ensuring that these containers are not reused, and such that all people on your farm and people around you remain safe from this pesticide. Remember, these pesticides are supposed to help you as a farmer and not to harm you, so eventually you should not be having repercussions, be it health wise, as a result of an unsafe interaction with these pesticides. Remember, safe food is your responsibility, is my responsibility. Take care of yourself, even as we ensure we are thriving in whatever we are doing. Remember, in storage we said have the labels intact. Such that someone else, the next time you're coming to use this pesticide after you stored it, you will be knowing when it's expiring, and also in case you forgot an instruction on how much you should dilute it or what is the correct dosage for it, you will have it in touch with you. Very important that you leave the the label on, hashtag Soma label, and also ensure that you keep pesticides out of reach of children. These are your children, keep their safety, and also such that they will not that can be done by locking the cabinets where you're storing this pesticide, indicating authorized personnel only on the rooms where you're storing this pesticide. And also remember, these rooms where you're storing this pesticide should be not away from direct sunlight. So you might consider placing them somewhere where they're not in direct contact with the sunlight. You can ensure also that the room in which you're storing is also very well ventilated. Ensure the room is properly ventilated for your sake and for the sake of all those working on the farm. Also ensure that these containers are tightly closed. Their lids are in touch, tightly closed and tightly locked, such that to minimize spillage of any kind. And also ensure you have hand washing stations very close or really close to these storage facilities. Thank you so much for joining me right here on the mid-morning, on the breakfast show, right after an hour or so. Noah necessarily will be joining you on the mid-morning show, and so we have a lot in store for you, a good program lineup the entire day for you, just to ensure that you get informed in the best way, where you come, connect, learn, and grow. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm David Kagina, and also remember, always reach out to us anytime and with any problem you have regarding farming on our social media platforms at A Farmers Media on Facebook, A Farmers Media with a Z on Instagram, as well as A Farmers _media on Twitter. And we'll be getting back to you, and we'll be reaching out to you. Remember, you can also tag me on my personal handles at Kagna Kagina, and most definitely we will get to help where we can. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and enjoy the rest of your viewing.